Hey guys, welcome back to Ben and Brewing's channel. If this is your first time here, we do product reviews, tutorials. We have a live chat feature on our website to help you through your Brew Day 911s. Check it out at benandbrewing.com. Today we're doing a little bit of a twist with the Pot-au-Brew. You've probably seen some other batches that we've done with cider and some beer that have turned out absolutely phenomenal. We're actually brewing a batch of kombucha on it. Should be pretty cool. Let's check it out. Quick disclaimer before we get started. If you go on a lot of kombucha sites and forums and things, they always tell you to make sure you ferment it in glass and not to let it come into contact with metal. This is obviously something that's concerning, especially when you're brewing the way that we do, where most of our supplies and our equipment is actually stainless steel. So it turns out you can actually brew kombucha in metal as long as it is a good quality stainless steel. We're talking a 304 stainless or better. Our Pot-au-Brew actually is 304 stainless steel, so it should be perfectly safe to use with kombucha. The issue comes from the pH drop that occurs during fermentation. Any lesser quality metal or different metal can potentially be leached into the kombucha, which is then something you do not want to drink. So always be careful, always err on the side of caution to make sure you're brewing something that is safe for people to consume. Before we get started on the ingredients you're going to need to brew your kombucha, I do have to give a shout out to a live stream we did a couple of weeks ago. We brewed with Trong from HomeBrewer Lab. We did a live stream brew. We brewed the Black Butte Porter clone. I have to say it came out absolutely fantastic. Please check out that video if you would, and if you want to do the recipe, we did brew it on the Pot-au-Brew, which made it for an extremely fast brew day, and it is absolutely fantastic. Let's talk about the ingredients. Hold on. Oh, that's good. Now I'm going to focus. So the kombucha. The ingredients you're going to need, or the supplies you're going to need. Obviously, since we're doing this on the Pot-au-Brew, you're going to need your Pot-au-Brew system. We're going to do 1.5 gallons of clean water and some sort of a black tea. And the tea that we're using is the PG Tips, which is a very famous, one of the most popular teas in England, if I was told correctly. And in 1.5 gallons of water, we used about 10 of those tea bags. So you bring your water to a boil, you pour it over the tea bags, don't go the other way. I was told you do not drop the tea bags into the water, you always pour the water over the tea bags. So I'm trusting that as the gospel. Let your tea cool down to room temperature overnight. You're going to need 1.5 cups of cane sugar. Don't use beet sugar, make sure it's cane sugar. Something with the fermentation with the kombucha and the SCOBY, it doesn't do well with the beet sugar. If you use beet sugar, the health benefits aren't quite as good as if you use cane sugar. And then of course the last thing you're gonna need is going to be your SCOBY, or your yeast and bacteria culture. Now we did get this off of Amazon. It is an organic SCOBY starter with the liquid and everything in it. We'll link all of these ingredients and supplies below in case you wanna kind of brew along with us or actually do this recipe. So we're excited to put this into use. All right, so the steps for this are actually pretty easy. You brew up your black tea, as I mentioned earlier. You let it cool down to room temperature. You're going to mix in your 1.5 cups of sugar and make sure that it is nice and dissolved. And then you're gonna take your SCOBY, your culture. If it comes in a bag and it should have extra liquid in there, make sure you drain off as much of that as possible because you really don't want to put that in. It probably won't impact flavor, but I like to err on the side of caution. So try to drain out as much of that starter liquid as possible and basically pitch it into your Pot-au-Brew with the tea and the sugar. You're gonna put the lid on it, and then this is important. The Pot-au-Brew is designed for pressure fermentation. That's typically what we do in it. For the first stage of the kombucha fermentation, you actually do not want to do it under pressure. So set your spunding valve for no pressure. Let it off gas everything. Let it ferment for 7 to 10 days, and you can take little samples of it and tastes of it and see how it goes. About the 7-day mark, you want to start tasting it. And if you like the flavor of it, then you are good to pop the lid, take the SCOBY out of it, reseal the lid. You can put some CO2 pressure on it if you like, and you can consume it like that. Now, keep in mind, because this is a living, breathing product, it's always good to drink it fresh. The flavor will continue to develop over the next several days or weeks. It will go from having some residual sweetness to becoming a little bit more acidic and a little bit more, I don't want to say vinegary, but kind of along those lines. So you really want to try to catch it when you like the flavor. Now, if you're happy with the flavor as is, then you're done. You can cap it, you can serve it, you can put it in bottles, and you can drink it, whether you want it still or sparkling. Either way is fine. For us, we're gonna take it a step further and do option 2, which is we're not gonna consume it, but we're gonna do a secondary fermentation where we add some flavor. So for secondary fermentation, this is the point where you can add your flavors or your fruit or your juices or whatever you want to do to add additional flavor to your kombucha. As we said before, we're doing a lemon ginger. So after primary fermentation is finished, you're going to want to open your pot-au-brew, remove the SCOBY, because you don't want to ferment that secondary fermentation with fruit juice and things. You really just want to keep it pretty clean, just doing the teas and the cane sugar. Pull your SCOBY out, put it in a container, glass or even a little plastic Ziploc baggie should be fine. Make sure you leave some liquid in there from your fermentation so that it can kind of go into hibernation. Put it in the fridge, should be good for 6 months. Before you really need to brew again. Obviously you can use it sooner than that. Once your SCOBY's been removed, you're going to put together the other ingredients for adding the flavor. For our particular recipe, we're using 6 juiced lemons, 1.5 tablespoons of finely chopped ginger, and 6 teaspoons of honey. Now, you really don't need to worry about putting the ginger in anything with the pot-au-brew because it has that wonderful floating dip tube with the dual screens. Nothing's getting past there. You throw your ingredients right in there and let them do their thing. Even though we've removed the SCOBY from the fermentation, there are still yeast and bacteria that are floating around free in solution. So the additional juice that we're adding and plus a little bit of the honey, it will go through a secondary fermentation and that will actually add carbonation. So it's important, once you add your ingredients, put the lid back on, make sure it is secure, set your spunding valve for 15 psi. Leave it at room temperature, about 68 degrees or so, for another 7 to 10 days. You can take samples off of it to see how the carbonation's coming, and once you're happy with the flavor, it's ready to crash, cool, and consume, and it will be carbonated on its own. All right, we are back with our tasting of the pot-au-brew kombucha. It's been about 10 days or so. We added some ginger and lemon, the flavoring, once the primary fermentation was done a couple of days ago. And so now we're getting our first kind of smell and taste of it. I'm excited.
I'm so excited.
Let's go ahead and give it a try. Cheers.
Ooh, this is good.
It's got a little bit of carbonation in there. It's real slight. I don't get as much of the black tea.
No.
That kind of takes a little bit of a back seat. Definitely some honey. Ginger and lemon is definitely present. I still get the kombucha flavor. Like there's that flavor profile that it has. Not real vinegary. There's a lot of good honey sweetness to it.
You know what's weird to me is, I don't know why, if the combination changed the flavor, but it has to me like an apple flavor.
Not again.
Not a green apple.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's infected.
I can't go through that again.
No, not that it gets infected. It just has like that kind of tart.
The tart puckering.
Yeah.
Not so
like
not
green. Like I shouldn't say green apple, but it has like a cider flavor.
It's like I equate to like an astringent almost. Again, not in a bad way. It is black tea after all, but it's a drying.
Yes.
Of the palate. It's a crisp drying, so it's like a white wine drying.
Yes.
That's what it is.
That's what was missing.
With the other one, because we did a tasting, and if you haven't seen our video, check it out below, where we brewed kombucha on the iGulu. We were challenged by iGulu to do that, and we actually had just finished tasting it. So it's interesting to see the difference between the two. Not that one is better than the other, but the flavor profile is definitely different. This one has more of a drying, white wine, dry champagne kind of character to it, but it really makes it sessionable.
I think that's what the difference is going to be between, it's really a matter of anyone's palate. For someone that likes sweet tea, I feel like the iGulu, that would be their thing. Personally, I like drier kind of champagne white wine finishes. This is good.
This is really good.
Really good. I feel like if you're looking for an alcohol replacement, this one is almost the better option.
I think, and the carbonation needs to still come up over the next couple of days. It's only been pressurized and crash cooled for like 2 days. So there's some residual carbonation from the SCOBY that was in there, but it's under CO2 pressure, so it will continue to build. And I think a little bit more carbonation in there will really round this out perfectly.
I would drink this as a substitution for a beer on a hot day, any day. Like this definitely has more of that kombucha flavor that I was expecting.
It does. And I think with the almost white wine character that it has, this would be really good with as a dinner pairing. That is actually really, really good. I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the pot-au-brew can do a lot of things. We haven't done kombucha before, so doing it in the pot-au-brew was definitely, it wasn't really a learning curve, but it was simple. The hardest part was like peeling the mushroom out because it had expanded from its original size to fill up the whole top surface of the pot-au-brew. So we'll definitely have to make it again. I think I would even repeat this recipe again. It's so good. Highly recommend.
Literally, so good.
We'll probably end up bottling it so we can throw another batch of something in there and brew something else, but and see how it ages over time. I'd be curious if the sweetness continues to fade away. I have a feeling it will, and more of the kombucha flavor comes forward.
The best part is you can reuse the mushroom, right? From each batch. So.
Yeah, and I think you're supposed to like peel them apart. If they get too big, separate them and like give one to a friend or throw it over someone's fence. I don't know. That's really good. Oh my gosh.
Good.
I can't stop drinking it.
I know.
This is really good. Highly recommend if you guys haven't tried kombucha before, or if you've had kombucha and you're not quite sure on it, try it with the flavor. The lemon and the ginger is absolutely fantastic. We'll have to try some other fruit flavors in there, maybe just some strawberries or I don't know, something to kind of boost the flavor. That's really good.
Very buildable. This recipe I could see would be very buildable. You can customize it.
And very approachable too.
Yeah.
Very easy. So that's awesome. Thank you so much for watching our video on the pot-au-brew kombucha, which was actually a very fun experiment. Check out other videos coming very soon as we brew more and experiment more on the pot-au-brew. Catch you later, my friends.